was necessary. So the family began to call me a mid-ewe. So anyway, that was a fun part of some of the sheep. The other thing was that when the lambs became probably 6 to 8 weeks old, you had to dock them, their tails. You cut their tails off. And with the rams, you had to remove you know what. And so that was another thing that we kids learned as youngsters. Neither one did I ever enjoy. The other thing was that I did get to adopt a number of the lambs. They were called bums. These are lambs that the mothers would not own. So I would bottle feed them until they were adults, and then they became part of our own flock. Well, the story I have to tell you relates to my lovely bride. We were in college together, and we were dating, and she mentioned that she had always wanted to have a pet lamb. So taking her for her word, the next time I went home, sure enough, there was a pet lamb in the kitchen by the wood stove. And I asked my parents, I said, would you mind if I took that back to school with me? No, go ahead. So I took the lamb back to school and made the presentation to Jocelyn. Her name was Shirley at the time, and
Was Kelly at the time.
Jocelyn and the sorority that she belonged to. And there was a shed out behind the sorority house where she kept the lamb. And she and the girls, the sorority sisters, bottle fed that lamb. But the house mother got very upset with this because it was taking good milk that the girls were supposed to be drinking. So I bet you couldn't guess what the final solution was. The girls all got together and decided that they would leave a little bit of milk in the glass, undrinked. Anyway, so the house mother didn't recognize what was going on, but when the girls cleaned up the table, they accumulated all that milk, added some Carol syrup to it, and that's how they bottle fed that lamb. And the lamb's name, I forgot to tell you, was Peggy O'Shaughnessy Jocelyn. Right?
Kelly.
Anyway, you know about pet lambs, they adapt their owner and they follow them everywhere. Well, Jocelyn's lamb followed her everywhere, even to class. And believe it or not, I can imagine a university tolerating this. And she'd be walking down the street going to class in the morning. The lamb was about 4 or 5 feet behind her. And she'd go into class, the lamb would follow her into class. Lamb would lay down in the back of the class, get out his notebook, and never did a professor ever complain about it. The only time we ever got in trouble was one time we were on a date and the lambs was with us. We went into the campus union to get a cup of coffee. We walked in, the lamb proceeded to do you know what on the floor? The chief of the union came out and said, don't ever bring that lamb in here again. At which point the lamb turned around, wandered out into the kitchen, hunched down and did you know what, number 2. Well, that was the last time the lamb visited the campus union. But Jocelyn would walk down the street and people would be singing the song, you know, Mary had a little lamb, little lamb, little lamb. Mary had a little lamb, its face was white as snow. So anyway, I don't know that any college has ever tolerated that sort of nonsense, but that was part of it.
You forgot to say that the mascot for the fraternity in town, one of the Lambda Chi, I think it was Lamb Kai.
It was a German. Had a German Shepherd.
It was a German Shepherd, and that they would lay down next to each other in class and didn't disturb each other. It was weird. It was really weird.
Mm-hmm. Probably because of the name.
They were Lambda Chi.
There were probably at least a dozen different classes that the lamb would attend class. And I don't know if
They
anybody
did
ever
learn to
complained.
speak Spanish though.
Anyway, that was one of the interesting bylines of being a farm boy and having a city girl who wanted a pet lamb. So during our college years, see if I can remember some of the things that went on at that time. Maybe I better not. Anyway, the way that I met Jocelyn was kind of interesting. I had joined a fraternity, and during the winter time we would have a fraternity tea in which we would invited the young ladies from the different sororities to come up and have dessert, tea, coffee, and we'd sing to them and so forth. This one time I was in line waiting to meet the ladies, and I looked up ahead of me, and here was this cute little brunette. And I had not seen her before. And I thought, boy, that's pretty interesting. And of course, you can imagine who that was. Anyways, that was my bride-to-be later on. And it just so happened that I knew her brother, I knew her cousin, I knew your aunt and uncle, because they were all active in the American Baptist Church at that time. And so anyway, that was our entree to doing a year and a half or 2 years of dating. Also during that time, during the period of time that we were in college, we both sang in the choir. We were both, I think, members of the BYF, which was the Baptist Youth Fellowship. We attended safaris. We both went to the same church camps, although we had not met each other through that mechanism. And then we both became counselors, camp counselors, and campers during our time. And I don't think even during those years that we actually were doing any dating. But it was interesting that we knew each other's family that well. Okay, during the community life part of the presentation, my folks were strong American Baptists. We were very active in the church. As I said earlier, everybody sang in the choir those days. We went on Baptist safaris, which is called BYF. Those were weekend affairs in different churches throughout the state where we had services. And so we were very active in the church during that time, and we continued with that even well into our marriage. Now, the other thing about that I want to mention is, as a farm boy, you normally were not invited to be a member of the Boy Scouts, but you were expected to be an active member of the 4-H club, and you're not in your head. Can you tell me what the 4-H's stood for?
Heart, health, hands.
Head, heart, hands,
Heads,
belt.
health, heart,
Head,
Farm boy
heart,
over here.
head, heart,
Hands.
hands, and health.
yeah, that's close enough.
I was a Girl Scout. I
I did both.
Anyway, the 4-H'ers in the farming community were very, very active, and my brother was a member, and I became a member. You could belong from the age of 10 to 21, and so we took full advantage of that. There were many activities which were sponsored by the clubs. One of the primary things was it was an educational activity which taught you to keep good records about your pets, your animals, and so forth. In my case, I had cattle, sheep, hogs, chickens, and forestry. And all of those things you had to write a report on every year, financially and otherwise, how you took care of them. So it was a very educational. In many of these groups, there were, for instance, one of them was the Hordes Dairymen. I don't know whether any of you remember that. the Hordes Dairyman was a magazine in the United States that sponsored all kinds of news, information regarding dairy herds. And every year they sponsored a dairy judging contest throughout the country in which thousands of kids up to the age of 21 could participate in. And they would win all kinds of prizes and so forth. Well, this one year, we were at a 4-H club meeting, and the 4-H club leader said, okay, you guys, you're going to fill out the contest. You're going to judge all of these cattle. And there were pictures of 5 different pictures of the 5 main dairy breeds. And you were supposed to pick the best all the way down to the 5th. And so we did. It came down to the last one. None of us could decide which was the best looking cow of the bunch. So, okay, it's that Holstein. So we put that down. Several months later, I got an announcement in the mail that I had won the Hordes Dairyman contest in New York State. I didn't have the heart to tell them how I'd done it. Anyway, that provided an opportunity for us young'uns to become a member of the New York State dairy judging team. And so we traveled in Pennsylvania, Virginia, Tennessee, North Carolina, South Carolina, Canada, New Jersey, in that area. There were 4 or 5 of us judging cattle. And we did this for a full year.
Wow.
And believe it or not, I had never even been outside the state lines up until that point. And that was one of the benefits of 4-H club work. Another one was that I happened to be able to win a contest in which the winner would get a free trip to Albany, New York, which was the capital of New York State. And the occasion was to meet the governor at that time, who was Thomas E. Dewey. And so the 5 of us, boys and girls, we jumped in a buggy and we were transported to meet him. Well, it was a surprise of my life. Because you know, the communication systems would not talk about height, body size, or weight, or anything of the officers of the government. So when we got to meet Governor Dewey, he was only about 5'2" or 3" tall. Oh, I couldn't believe it. I thought he was about 6 foot. But the other thing that really shocked me was, since there was going to be a lot of photographs taken, he had rouge on. Well, I could not believe my eyes. Anyway, that was how I met Governor Thomas E. Dewey, who was a very nice person. And he later on, as you probably well remember, was a candidate for President of the United States, and he lost to Harry Truman. So that was another benefit that the 4-H clubs offered us. And the final one that was quite a treat was that I won a trip to the National 4-H Club Congress, which was held in Chicago every 4 years. And it was an expense-paid trip for the full week. And so about a dozen of us from New York State won that. And we went to we went to Chicago for that period of time. And again, I'd never been in Illinois before. To be in a big city like Chicago kind of blew your mind. So that was some of the benefits of the 4-H club. Enough about that. Then the other thing about the family activities. With a family such as the size of ours, at that time there were 8 children. There were 26 grandchildren, and then all the aunts and uncles and so forth that went with it. We had all kinds of family activities. One of the things that reminded me of that was that not over 2 months ago I sent a birthday card to one of my nephews. His name was Jimmy. I said, "Dear Jimmy," I said, "never did I believe that I would be sending a birthday card to you on your 81st birthday." But anyway, when I was just 5 years older than he was when he was born. Anyway, we had Sunday dinners were a big activity at our family. My mother and the women would always provide chicken and dumplings. We also had many, many family reunions, holiday celebrations, you know, all year long. Many, many weddings and births. And we also had, my parents had a part ownership in a cottage on Lake Keuka, which was one of the Finger Lakes. And so we would go down there, go fishing and swimming and boating and so forth. And one of the things I didn't mention was about my father earning enough cash flow and income to support a family of this size. The farm would not do it. And so he took a job as in the U.S. Postal Service. He was a postman for